just from the jump, I just always felt inside of me that connecting with other people and teaching and growing together, it's more than a strategy, right? It's like the end game in and of itself. Like, that's what life is about. And then the people that live in Miami that come to the React Miami parties are like, wow, it's like amazing how much you've toned down a Miami party for developer. Content was in a completely different place. Now people self-produce everything. Any ideas that they have, they can just share them on their own. They don't have to find a stage. The stage is your room. My point is, a lot of these proposals are perfect. There's nothing wrong with them at all. They're amazing. I always get questions after, like, why did my talk get rejected? Like, what could I have done better? It does keep me awake at night. It like definitely takes over my thoughts a lot, which is something that I'm working on. You see all of these posts where, oh, I can't make it, I'm gonna go next year. And I'm like, next year? Like, who said I have the energy to do it next year? Like,
Welcome back to the Code and Content Podcast, the podcast for conversations at the intersection of code and content. If you're on Twitter, part of the web development community, you've either been to React Miami or you have FOMO from having never been there. And sadly, I'm in the second group. I have to get there at some point. It really does look like web dev Twitter's best conference/party, and what weights you put on either one of those is really up to you to decide. So because I haven't been there, I had to bring React Miami to me. So I've invited on Michelle Bakels to tell me all about how this little conference that started a few years ago is now just the hottest thing on web dev Twitter every single year. The expectations that come with that, the amount of content that needs to be produced throughout the year, the power of having a really cool t-shirt to be designed, all of those conversations. We got on a bunch of different things and some really deeper topics towards the end, which was really interesting to talk through as well. Before I hand off to the interview, keep in mind Sanity has got a huge product release next week. You need to go to sanity.io, sign up, make sure that you are there for our big product release on May 8th. We've got so much cool stuff I can't wait for you to see. But until then, you may need to pause the episode, go and do that, then come back, unpause, and listen to myself and Michelle. Michelle, welcome to the Code and Content Podcast.
thanks for having me.
Now, I really wanted to get you on the show because you are the founder, owner. What's your role with React Miami?
I use the term co-organizer.
Co-organizer?
But yeah, sometimes my other co-organizer will call me the co-founder of it. Feels weird for a conference, but yeah, I use co-organizer.
Okay. You mustn't have React Miami business cards then to know what your title should be on there.
I don't have any business cards.
I
Every
think
time I
anyone
go
does.
to make a business card, it gives me like a crisis, like an identity crisis.
Part of me misses business cards, but also I've thrown out thousands of business cards with my name on them that I never used. So
The only ones that I have are the ones that are like really unique. And it's not necessarily anybody I'm ever going to reach out to, but one is like from the Pokemon company. So I kept that. One person 3D printed like an old Game Boy cartridge that they put their information on. So I keep the cool ones, but I throw them out too.
Yeah, that's right. So, but the reason I wanted to get you on is because React Miami is kind of like the conference. I know React Conf exists as the official conference, but React Miami really is it. And a story I wanted to tell you at the start, the other day I wore my React Miami t-shirt that you gave me at React Conf on a stream. And there was a comment on the video afterwards saying, wow, cool t-shirt. And I thought, I don't know if there's another conference that has, apparel that could, that maybe you're at the point where you could sell merch, I reckon, for React Miami. It has that much cool appeal to it. Since you're in charge of that, I wanted to get you on to discuss all of the content operations surrounding that, because I imagine there's an awful lot of it.
There is. That always makes me so happy to hear, by the way. I have a strong personal philosophy behind the t-shirt, so I'm always happy to hear that people like it.
Oh, let's start there then, because I think I might have mentioned when you gave me that shirt, because I think it was from 1 or 2 years ago. Because React Miami is so cool, I think having like a vintage conference shirt, like having a couple of years old one, is actually almost a status symbol. Like, especially if you were there before it was big, I think there's some cachet to that.
Yeah. I have drawers full of t-shirts from conferences. And everybody knows that you just get rid of these things. Like, it's like really enticing when you're in the moment, but then you bring it home and it's not really something that you're realistically going to wear unless you are really attached to the brand. Like, you're a really big part of their community or you work for the company. So my philosophy around merch is like, would I wear this or would I use this if my logo wasn't on it? And so I think in order to answer yes to that question, you have to make first just an objectively cool shirt
Hmm.
and then put your logo, like incorporate your logo as an afterthought. And so I think that has worked pretty well for us because, I mean, when you look at the post-conference surveys, people say that they hear about the conference on Twitter, but a lot of people say that they hear about the conference watching somebody's stream or from a coworker or at a meetup too. And I can't even tell you how many times I've seen podcast streams where somebody's wearing the shirt and I didn't pay them to wear that. Like it's not part of a sponsor slot. Like they want to wear it because they like it. And every year we do like a pocket logo with React Miami and then a full back graphic. That's just my personal favorite kind of t-shirt. But it had this like unexpected benefit of like it looks great in podcast recordings where everybody's kind of like here and then you get a nice React Miami logo there. And one of the coolest was like Primogen and Tej. They did this cool series where they were like vibe coding in a tower on the beach. And
Mm.
Tej wore like a React Miami shirt for like half the time he was in the tower. I was like, I happen to know them like a little bit from working together, and I'm like, I know for a fact like a company would pay him like $30,000, $20,000 to wear their shirt for 2 days in the tower, and like I just got that for free because it's a cool shirt. So I think like just if you're not gonna make a cool shirt, like just don't make one. But if you are gonna make a shirt, just put a little bit more effort. Make it something that you would buy in a store and then give that away, and the ROI is crazy.
It's a good baseline because, like I said, I think if you had like a more premium one available for sale, I imagine people would buy it at this point because the brand is so strong. But it's funny, just every small detail like that, just that little bit of increased effort makes a big difference. Where it's become a brand. So React Miami, I'm sure it's one of those things where it feels like an overnight success to some people, but I bet it took 10 years of work to become an overnight success, like the saying goes. What are the origins of React Miami? How long ago did this start?
Yeah, so it started around 2020. Basically, I for years I had been working in the tech community in South Florida where I live doing meetups and tech events and volunteering a lot. So that was kind of where I like cut my teeth in community and tech was just on a very local level for years. Then Miami, like during COVID, it really blew up. Some people from San Francisco came to Miami. They started making a really big deal about the city. All of a sudden, it felt like everybody was looking at us. And there were a lot of people in South Florida where, like our goal is to build the tech community in South Florida. So there was this opportunity where it's like, okay, this is kind of crazy and random and it feels like it came out of nowhere, but like we should also try and capitalize on this like attention that we're getting. So that was kind of where my headspace was at. Like I was like, okay, we need to step it up. We need something for developers. So much business in Miami around tech is around startups or like huge enterprises, but it's startups more from the angle of like funding. It's like kind of like a non-technical CEO and like investors. But there's not like a lot of like technical developer focused stuff. And so that's where my head was at. Very like serendipitously, like I had just met somebody else in South Florida tech community, Gabe, who's my co-organizer. He's the founder of G2I where I now work. But he posted on Twitter, like, I think somebody should put on a React conference in Miami, and I bought this domain. And I was like, I was just thinking this, like, I was a React developer in South Florida. I was like, I was just thinking about this today. We should do it. And so we talked, and he was like, no, I mean, like, I wanted somebody else to do it, not us. Like, I was just kind of pitching this idea to conference organizers out there. We're not. And so I was like, no, we can do this. We could do this. So, yeah, so
Be
that
careful
was
what you wish for, right?
yeah, that was the start of it around 2020. And then, yeah, 2021, I think, somewhere around there, 22, 23, 20. Yeah, I think like, yeah, 2022 was our first year that we officially hosted the conference. So, yeah,
That's even more impressive. So this was this the third year then of
this
React
was the
Miami?
fourth edition.
Fourth. Yeah,
So
okay.
there
Well,
may be 24 I can't do the math in my head, but like, yeah, this is our fourth edition.
Yeah, maybe I've got it wrong, but yeah, no, that's quite amazing because it has got such an established name in such a short amount of time. But like you say, it sounds like the timing was right and the opportunity was there, and so to actually capitalize on that is so important. I imagine in the time in between conferences, it's pretty hectic at times. There's probably some pretty long days and late nights. So what is it that makes you love doing this and keep turning up?
It's such a good question, and I ask myself that too because it's a lot of work, and I'm like, "Why this thing?" Like, it's so much work, like, but
And
it's like
self-inflicted too.
yeah, exactly, like, I'm like, "Why did you have to choose this of all things?" There's, like, a million tasks, like, it's endless. You would have, like, the opinions of, like, thousands of people in your
Mm,
ear, like, I think I just really love I just love community. It sounds like such a cliche, but, uh, I just do. Like, when I first started learning to code, one of the first things that I did, like, while I was still in school was, find a local chapter of Girls Who Code and just started teaching the girls at this local chapter whatever I was learning in college, like, just the basics, fundamentals of, like, computer programming. And so, I mean, just from the jump, I just always felt inside of me that connecting with other people and teaching and growing together was it's 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 more than a strategy, right? It's like the end game in and of itself. Like, that's what life is about. And so I just felt like I always wanted to be connected to the community and I always wanted to grow with people and learn together. And so everything just sort of you kind of okay, let's start with a local meetup and teaching girls how to code. Okay, now let's code with other like professional software developers. Let's host an event, like, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And there's no part of me like 7, 8 years ago that thought I would ever host a conference, but it just sort of gradually gets to that level where you just go a little bit bigger. And then the next step was conference organizing. And I gravely underestimated it completely. Um, but you figure it out. And there are a lot of people that helped us. In our first couple years, we did partner with a conference organizing body that did help us like lay a roadmap and like get like the bones down, get the structure down, give us a lay of the land. And then now we're running it on our own. But yeah, I underestimated that goal a lot, but a lot of people gave us help, so
yeah.
that's how we
And
got there.
I think we've touched on this on a couple episodes of the podcast, but about that incremental improvement that like you say, you couldn't have jumped from 0 to 100 on this, but it sounds like you're pushing the boundaries of what you're comfortable with year over year. And that seems evident from the outside. I have to admit, I've never actually been to React Miami. I've pushed. I do want to get there. We're overdue, I told someone the
Yeah.
other day that we're overdue to get down there and show our support for it as well. But it just, from the outside, you could see it continues to expand. And I suppose that's something that I find really interesting from the outside with React Miami is that I suppose most conferences, it's about the talks, where React Miami feels like, or looks like, a party from the outside, and there's game shows and there's all these other things, and I don't hear so much about the talks. So I don't know, like, what percentage do you weighting do you put the importance on the talks, and what on all of these other activities? Because is this just what you see as like a modern conference needs to cater for like multi-dimensional content? Or is perhaps the party thing just more interesting on Twitter and the conference talks on the day at the venue are actually the interesting, engaging part?
I think the last thing that you said is probably the most accurate. I always hear this comment of like people don't really watch talks, and that's just not true. I mean, like you can go to the gallery that we just posted for React Miami, and you can see that the room is like full for like every single talk. There's people in there. I get multiple messages every day asking when the talks are going to be uploaded. I know that people have like taken our talks and have like presented them at offsites with their company because they like learned something from one of our speakers that they want to like pitch to their company. I get these trip reports. I get to sometimes see people's trip reports of their overview, and people are really sitting there watching the talks. They're learning from the speakers, and they're also using those talks to like jumpstart a lot of the conversations in the conference. I think that that's like a really easy way to like start a conversation with people too, is talk about the thing that you just watched together and discuss the ideas. I do think that like as far as a social media perspective goes, the parties are like they're very aesthetically pleasing and they look nice in posts. I don't wanna, like, act like I don't throw social events, so, like, I definitely do, but that I think is, like, so cultural. It's actually one of the things that was the most shocking to me. Um, it's interesting, like, when you make something big that a lot of people consume, everything is up to their interpretation. Their interpretation comes from their perspective in life and their experiences, and so it's funny because a lot of these parties are very par for the course for me, like, very standard part of hosting people, of throwing an event, but I think from the outside looking in, if you're not used to a culture like South Florida where, you gather at parties, like, you talk at parties or whatever, like, if you're not used to that, then this does seem very bizarre and it feels like a little over the top or extravagant. I mean, I do put a lot of effort into making sure that I create a good event that people enjoy. But I will say, like, it's interesting. I don't but that's my perspective. It's funny, like, I'll give an example, like, when people come to the parties for React Miami, they're usually, like, pretty impressed. If they don't live in Miami, they're, like, pretty impressed, like, "Wow, this is amazing. This is a great, like, dev party." And then the people that live in Miami that come to the React Miami parties are like, "Wow, it's, like, amazing how much you've toned down a Miami party for developers."
Wow.
So so the Miamians are like, "Wow, this is really toned down," and then the people that aren't from Miami are like, "Wow, this is amazing. What a party."
Well, I think that would be me if when I make it to React Miami, because I'm about the least interesting person at a party that it could be. So I think it'd be wild by my standards. But that's really interesting because I sort of wanted to talk about that. Is that I think the popularity of React Miami and certainly that shareability, Miami itself is kind of the secret sauce, and I
Yeah.
I like that you've leaned into the area as being part of the identity. I want to give a shout out to there's a local conference here called Middlesbrough Front End. I think it's one of the best conferences here in the UK, but Middlesbrough is a very scrappy working class town, but I think that sort of injects personality into the conference itself because the conference is quite similar, even though they get world-class presenters and everything in. So yeah, like leveraging Miami as part of the personality of the conference for branding and for the event itself really feels like a smart move. It's not trying to be anything other than what it is and where it is.
Yeah, 100%. It's I I mean, South Florida is my identity. I don't even know how to say it. Like, it's not it's my whole life, it's my whole personality is South Florida, and so I don't even know how I could, like, sterilize a conference to, like, strip that away. Like, that's my heart. I love this conference. I love my home. Like, they're going to inevitably mix I love it's like a Southern hospitality thing. It's like, I'm welcoming you to where I live, like, this is where I live. I want you to see this. Like, there's conferences all over the world. I always tell people who want to organize conferences, lean in to where you are. Give people a reason to want to travel there because from an attendee perspective, it's a huge investment. Like, especially now where there's layoffs, where companies are cutting budgets, where they're not sending their developers. A lot of attendees that go to your conference, they're paying for it out of pocket. So Dax actually wrote a really good thread about this, which was it's a tough read if you're a conference organizer, but it is the truth. Like, as an attendee, like, you're no longer competing with other people's conferences. Like, you're competing with, or sorry, as an organizer, you're not competing with other conferences. You're competing with people's vacations. So, like, if somebody's paying for a flight and a hotel and an event ticket out of pocket, like, I would do the same thing. I'd be like, "Oh, this is gonna cost me $2,000-$3,000. I could go to Italy. Like, I could go travel somewhere instead. Why would I go to a conference?" So it is about making it an experience for people to actually wanna be there too.
Yeah, it draws parallels. Maybe this is a tangent, but sort of like a retail store now is supposed to be an experience, not just a place to buy things. And I think a conference here is much more than just a room full of talks, though the talks are good. You've got to emphasize the rest of that. And I suppose you've got to spend the rest of the year telling that story too. How much do you think about, because the conference sells itself on the day, it looks like a great time, but how much do you think about then the story of that you'll need to tell for the rest of the year to get people back next year and the content that you'll have to create around that to promote next year's event?
I think about this too much. I think about it all the time. And also every year I have this like crisis where I'm like, I did it. I don't even know what I'm going to do next year. Those
Huh.
are all the ideas that I had. Um, and I don't know what I'm going to offer, but yeah, I think it's all year round. You're telling this story. I think so much of it is like helping people visualize themselves in the room, which is definitely a big key to like my personal storytelling around React Miami is um again, I think that this goes back to, like, when people are looking at the conference from the outside in, like, do people even watch the talks? Like, they do. I think a lot of conferences, though, they do this thing where they promote the talks almost exclusively, um, and I think that it's important to promote the talks because people need to know what they're gonna see. But I think when people make decisions, they make the decision based on how they see themselves in that scenario, like, "What am I gonna get at it?" So you have to help people visualize, like, a good time or a successful time, maybe somebody that they're going to meet that, like we have amazing people that come to this conference. Like you might not ever have a chance to meet Tom Okino or Jordan Walk, in any other place, but you can meet them at React Miami. You can get FaceTime with them. You can show them what you built. And so a lot of it is like helping people visualize themselves in the room and what they are going to get for themselves. So yeah, watching some talks and learning things from the speakers is definitely part of it. But I think there's so much content online. Content is totally different than it was 7 years ago when conferences you could just share talks and people will go based on the talks. Content was in a completely different place. Now people self-produce everything. Any ideas that they have, they can just share them on their own. They don't have to find a stage. The stage is your room. And so like there has to be more that people get than just the talks, which again, I'll say people do watch them and they like them, but there's gotta what's the extra thing? Like, oh, I get to meet so and so. I get to, pitch this idea or whatever. Like, what else is there?
Yeah, I think I'm much the same when getting to a conference. Is I'm typically excited to hear from the speakers because they're all usually good speakers, but I'm more excited to meet them, and that's the opportunity that the conference presents.
Yeah.
Um, is is that the most difficult part, or like where does that rank selecting conference speakers? Because I imagine your proposals inbox must be absolutely overstuffed these days, and you've got to find the balance of I suppose recognizable names that people might want to go and see, but also perhaps unknowns who have something amazing to say. Is that the most difficult part of conference organizing? Is weeding through 1,000 talk proposals written out and trying to figure out who makes the cut?
Definitely. My least favorite day, the worst part of conference organizing is the day that you send out the rejections. Mostly because, like, very few of these conference proposals are, like, you get some that are clearly not going to make it, where they're like, I'm a personal branding coach and I'm going to teach your developers how to, like, growth hack their LinkedIn. And I'm like, that's clearly not going to get
That's it.
accepted.
Yeah.
Like, that's rejected. But for the most part, a lot of them are really good. And conference speaking has also become, I don't even know how to like say, it's like almost like a career strategy for people too.
Mm.
So there's this like added pressure of, people coming into it are looking to get more out of it than just sharing their ideas too. And you feel bad that you might have like stepped in their way of like an opportunity to like help them. But a lot of these, my point is, a lot of these proposals are perfect. There's nothing wrong with them at all. They're amazing. I always get questions after, like, why did my talk get rejected? Like, what could I have done better? And I'm just like, I don't even know what to tell you. Like, there,
Mm.
at some point, there's nothing you can do better. I just have a finite number of speakers. And so I have this, like, list of everybody whose talks I think really stand out, or like speakers who really stand out. um, and you sort of build it like a mosaic. So if somebody were to like pitch me an idea, I honestly can't say I would accept it or reject it, like just in the vacuum of that idea alone. How does that speaker, how does that speaker's talk fit into the rest of the lineup of the talks? Like, of course I want to have some talks about React, but they can't all be about React 19. Like, maybe there's going to be some talks about testing or accessibility or infrastructure, even like. I want it to be like kind of like a tapestry of the ecosystem. So it's hard to say, just when somebody gives me a proposal, if it's going to get accepted or not. Like I kind of have to see it in the context of
In
everything.
context.
And I
Yeah.
don't know that I've never I've always loved all of the speakers that I have accepted. There's always talks that I have that like that ping of like regret maybe that I wish I could have really gotten that one in. A lot of times, I wouldn't say that this is true for all speakers, but every now and then, if a speaker that you'll see in the preview of the lineup before the full lineup is announced is somebody that I had to let go in the previous year, and I can't stop thinking about it. So I invite them, like, you're for sure being in the lineup next year. I can't let this go again.
So and maybe hold on to hope when you get that next rejection. So and I see that
Yeah.
there's. I was going to say I see there's sort of like an uptick in the number of soft skills talks as well. But like you said, you've got to find a balance, right? It can't be all soft skills. It's got to be some hard skills as well. And I tend to think too that educational talks, you can get those on YouTube. Like you said, everyone's self-producing content, but in my mind, every talk should be there for entertainment because you've gone to a conference to be entertained too. So, but I've never known how you could possibly judge that in a submission as well. Like, how entertaining is this talk going to be, as well as educational? And I guess then you're relying on how much you know about that person. Do you put emphasis on how much you know about this person, or like do you have to look up that person to find out like what other content have they produced, what other talks have they given? Is it, I suppose, having a long list of things you've published online probably helps in some cases to show off what you've done before, or the tone that you would bring if you're accepted.
I think it helps, but I think that even more than that, in our CFP submission, there's an optional field to submit a video for you to just talk out your idea,
That's good.
very informally, and a lot of people skip that. And I used to make it required, and then somebody brought it to me that might not be very comfortable for people, and I get that, but I will say, if you are a presenter, you're going to be on stage in front of a bunch of people and you're going to be talking to them. And I can't tell you how many times that 2-minute video of just somebody talking out their idea has swayed my decision on them getting accepted. Like, you can write the most thorough description of what you want to talk about, but then I don't even know if sometimes people realize how different that sounds from when somebody's actually talking about it. And especially if somebody is I remember one of my speakers, I guess I'll just name names, Simhita this year. She wrote this great proposal, very technical. And then I watch her video and I'm listening to her talk about it. I'm like, this girl is a badass. I'm listening to her talk about it. I'm like, she's so impressive. I immediately want to add her on LinkedIn. I want to know her. And it just takes it to a whole new level of clearly this is a well-informed person, to wow, this woman is on a different level. I have to have her. So I think that 2-minute video, more than a content library or anything, is gonna help.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've been a big fan of Loom for years for that reason. Is that you can get thousands of words across in 60 seconds on a video with a lot more clarity because there's no body language in written copy either,
Yeah,
and that can
exactly.
be very difficult to get across. So, yes, when it comes to those talks, though, I guess. Oh, and one thing on that too, I was thinking that I know some people have all of their camera set up and everything these days too, but I bet those videos, if it's just over a webcam, would still be so much more informative than just written text sometimes.
It really doesn't matter. Record it on
Don't
your
have to have the
iPhone.
gear. Yeah, that's right. Because all the gear is problematic. I've got half the gear, and so my video looks half good. It's really sharp but poorly lit, so it introduces problems. You don't need all the gear. Something else I wanted to ask about is that you seem to have captured all of the big personalities of web development Twitter as well, and brought them all in, whether they're in the React community or not. So Aaron Francis was there this year, and that's just funny to see, sort of magnetizing a lot of web development Twitter together. How do you feel about that? I mean, that must be great to have all those personalities and their platforms helping advance the cause of React Miami. Do you ever sort of give pause to what they might say? Or you're happy to let everybody have free reign? Like, because I don't know how unhinged things will get at the current rate, but I wonder if that keeps you awake at night.
It does keep me awake at night. And it like definitely like takes over my thoughts a lot, which is something that I'm working on. But I think it goes back to what I was saying of like once something starts getting a lot of eyes outside of your bubble. Like when I was starting off doing developer events, it was just people in my community going to these things. Everybody's giving you feedback, and it feels very like genuine because you all know each other. You actually all know each other. But now, something that I'm growing through and learning is how to just let people express their opinions and perspectives of this thing that I pour my heart into and that I'm obsessed with, even if they have a different takeaway than the one that I have, um, or like what I'm intending to convey to people, like just letting that be okay. Um, Trying to kind of think of like the positive side, like if it's not too bad, I don't need to worry about it. Obviously if somebody says something crazy, like I want to like probably DM them, but that hasn't really happened. It has been interesting seeing these people that are outside of our React ecosystem. I think there's like a little bit of curiosity, like why is this so popular? Why is it showing up on my feed? Like, so people join just to kind of see it. I think if you're not a React developer, you're not gonna get a lot of like not a lot of it, but you're gonna miss some things. Like there was like a comment where it was like we had this panel with like Taylor Otwell, Jordan Walk, Tom Okino, and Guillermo Rausch. And it was like, oh, Taylor and Guillermo were on this panel with these two other guys I didn't know. And in my mind, I'm just like, the two other guys were like, like not like, but like those are the ones that created React, right? And like that's like a really big thing, and they don't do this that often. And Jordan doesn't go to conferences, and like it's like for React developers in the room, like Jordan is like the
He's who
like
they
it's
came for.
a
Yeah.
mind-blowing guess. And then if you're outside of the React ecosystem, you don't know who these people are, then it's just like this other guy. And it's like, okay, well, do you know? Like, I think that's actually our biggest thing is this other guy. So it's always really funny. But um, do you know who Rick Rubin is?
Yes. Music
Okay.
producer. Yeah.
Yeah, and he like wrote the book, The Creative Act, and he definitely has well, he has some strong philosophy around interpretation, which has guided me a lot around like, any way that somebody interprets your work is correct.
Mm.
So just start from there. And if you feel like they didn't get the wrong or they didn't get the right idea, then that's work for you, not something that you need to correct them on. So whenever I hear things like that, I'm just kind of like, okay, I need to do a better job knowing now that people from outside of our ecosystem come to our conference, explaining, the gravity of like certain parts of our programming.
Yeah, that's interesting, and a lead up to sort of one of the last questions I wanted to ask. There's a good segue. There is like, what is next then for React Miami, because it has grown year over year. It's sold out this year. Is that the first year it's sold out?
Like, yeah, our first year we like had I think like kind of like a soft sold out where we're like selling tickets at the door and we kind of like hit capacity. But you can always add in a couple more people and it's fine. This was the
Mm.
first year where it's like we actually have to shut off ticket sales because it's going to start costing us a lot of money with all of our vendors, to like increase food quantities, and we have to do rush orders on extra merch and all this stuff. So
Yeah.
this is the first year was like true hardcore sellout.
So in that instance, then this is what I suppose I've always wondered: with a successful enterprise like this, do you then take this momentum and say, okay, we're going twice as big next year because we sold out this year, there's demand. I think we can go twice as big. Or do you refine the experience that you have and make it more exclusive so tickets are harder to get and you sell out sooner? I don't know. Perhaps you haven't yet, because it only just happened. Perhaps you haven't yet reached what you're going to do there. But yeah, you've got a widening audience as well, not just a more engaged React audience. Have you got an idea on what you do next, or what you're tempted to do next?
So as long as I'm running it, it's going to be like a 500-ish person React conference. Ever since year one, people have always said like, this is really successful, double it or open it up to the general JavaScript ecosystem. And I think that both of those things would just kill the conference. I think having like that central focus on React, even if other people join in, is really key on giving attendees something to connect on and a place to like meet. And then I think 500-person conference is, I think somewhere between 400 and 700 is like the perfect size conference where you can meet a lot of people, but you can make deep connections with people. And then I think when you get to be more than that, it starts to feel a little bit more chaotic and like you're not really able to connect. We do post-conference survey. Like so many people are like, please, please, please don't make this a bigger conference. Like it's perfect. The size conference is perfect. I think everybody kind of like can see that as being like a logical next step, like double the size or whatever. But nobody wants that. Like nobody that attends wants that. And when you're thinking about the sponsors too, another 500 people is kind of like in the room in front of you is kind of negligible. Like I think that online presence during the conference is like super valuable. I know some conferences where, the sponsors decide it's an in-person conference, but the sponsors make their decisions because of the online presence that conference gets as well. And I think that this is like one of the first years that we got to see that too, where I think a lot of our sponsors came to meet our attendees, but they also sponsor because they know that they're going to get a lot of visibility online as well. So,
yeah. No, those are good points, and I'm happy to hear it because I think that's always good when something stays that smaller size and still really focused. Where it's funny you say like while you're running it, it's. Is there a future where you get acquired by some conference organizing superpower that just wants to quadruple the size of the thing overnight? I could see
I don't know. It's you never know what's gonna happen. Every year, like during React Miami, I will say the week before React Miami, you see all of these posts where, oh, I can't make it. I'm gonna go next year, and I'm like, next year? Like, who said I have the energy to do it next year? Like, so I'm gonna keep doing it as much as I can, but. Also, at some point I imagine like I might just not be able to. I don't know. Also, it's morbid, but like you never know. Like you only have this present moment. Like tomorrow isn't promised. So
no, he's guaranteed.
Who knows? So maybe somebody runs it in the future and it might be twice as big, but not while I'm doing it.
Not you. No, that's funny to think somebody's probably so excited to say, I'm going to get there next year. And that just infers pressure on you to, yeah.
And I'm like, oh man.
I appreciate the sentiment, but yeah, now I've got work to do. Thanks. That's good to hear. So I want to wrap it up on a completely different tangent. The work that you do at G2I. I saw your talk at Epic Conf last year, Epic Web Conf, and was so fascinated by this idea of you should go and check that talk out. I'm sure it's online there, if dear listener. But about bringing an athlete mindset to this sort of white collar work that we do. I don't know if you have like a very quick distillation of the work that G2I does, because I found it really interesting at the time, and I sort of wanted to give you a platform to shill for that before we wrap up.
Nice. Yeah, thanks. So at G2I, we're a company, we connect developers to their next employment opportunities. Kind of like a recruiter. I think we're like way better than that though. Like we do the technical interviews, and we work really closely with our clients. They're not like anonymous kind of random people, but I think like a big part of our ethos around getting developers jobs is like we actually care about developers. Like we are developers, and so we know a lot of the very painful experiences of interviewing and trying to find a job, and we try and make that better and easier for people. And a lot of this ties back to an ethos that we have called developer health. And myself and Gabe, the CEO of G2I, we both love sports. We're both active people, and we look at developers as athletes. We look at treating the human mind like any other part of the body that you want to optimize. And I think to work your best, you need to treat your mind the best that you can. So like just like the best athletes in the world, They're making sure that they sleep every night. They're making sure that they're well nourished. They're taking breaks. They're not every day is like 120%. Some days are like 40%, some are 60, some are 100. But when it's time to perform, they can perform their best, like when it's really important. So everything, our whole ethos is kind of points to developers are athletes, and we draw everything from there.
Yeah, that's a really cool and very different take to the usual, and that's what so interested me. And I don't hear or see anybody else sort of talking about the work that we do through that lens. But it is so true that, like I said, talk about incremental improvement. I like to take terms from running progressive overload or from training at all. I think it bears a lot of relevance to the work that we do day to day with any sort of physical performance as well. So. That's really cool. Wrapping up, I was going to say, encouraging everybody to go and sign up. Go and make sure you get to React Miami next year. But now I don't want to put any extra pressure on you. So is there any?
We're going to do it again next year. It's okay.
Hey, okay. So 26 is good, but but I suppose this is the thing. Don't say you're going to wait till 27. Because, who knows between now and that's a long time away. But yes, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that we are there as well. So any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I think we covered so much. I really don't have anything else. This is just a fun conversation. I appreciate it.
Awesome.